All right, hey everyone. This is the CNZ or Commies and Zook strategy. So first and foremost, the ultimate goal in order to get the quick victory is not to go for the town center, is to get 50% damage across the base. So again, we're not aiming for the town center for the QV for the quick victory. We're looking to get 50% damage. Let's talk about troops and tactic allocation. So you can see here on the bottom, I have 11 commies and 13 zooks. This is the ratio that works for me. There's no real hard science to this, but I use 11 commies and 13 zooks. For troop tactics, I have a protect, 1 heal, 2 betrayals, and 3 decoys. And we'll talk more about how I use them in the future. Of course, I have a couple generals there. If I'm actually doing a war, I'll have 3 generals in here, but I just have 2 for the sake of this example. For my mercenary, I use the tank destroyers. Those are my favorites to use. They're powerful and have high hit points that hit all buildings. And then you also want to request troops from your allies. Usually I say, hey, I want heavy tanks, please no fillers. And I'll talk about why we don't want fillers later. By fillers, I mean like foot troops, foot soldiers and that kind of stuff. What you want, and this is because you're implementing what's called a meat grinder strategy. In the meat grinder, you want heavy or high HP troops like heavy tanks and generals. And we'll talk about more about that in a second. But here's the overall strategy, right? You first want to launch a decoy to release the troops. The enemy troops. Once the troops walk toward the meat grinder, you want to then launch your commies and zooks around in a circular fashion around the base, and then you want to protect the meat grinder as well as your CNZ with your planes. I use the betrayals often on the enemy heavy tanks because often heavy tanks get released from the bunkers, so I use betrayals on that as well. So let's talk about this in more detail. So the first thing you want to do is launch your decoy. Now, there are 3 areas where the most devastating troops are released from. One's the town center, the second is the stronghold, and the third is the fort with the generals. Most of the time, those 3 buildings are in some sort of triangular fashion, so I just have to launch 1 decoy to release the troops from all 3 buildings. If that's the case, great, you save the decoy. But sometimes you might have the fort all the way over here on the left or the stronghold all the way on the right. If that's the case, you want to release 2 decoys because you want to make sure there are no troops in the stronghold, town center, and the fort. Make sure all those troops are released. So let's show you an example here. All right, let me fast forward a little bit. Okay, so you can see there, I launched the decoy right between all 3 buildings. So now all the troops are released. After that, you want to pick a strategic location to launch your meat grinder. Again, the meat grinder are the heavy tanks, the generals, the tank destroyers, anything with a very high HP. Because the ultimate goal is to draw all the troops that were released by the decoy, have them be drawn out to the meat grinder. Okay? You want to stay, like when it comes to picking a location, I try to stay away from wherever I see cannons, because cannons can easily take out these troops. So be very strategic as far as where you launch your meat grinder. So the important thing here now is wait until the enemy troops that were decoyed out, wait till they start walking toward your meat grinder. If you launch your commies too early, it's going to completely ruin the strategy. So wait until you see them clearly walking toward the meat grinder. Like now, they're walking towards now. And so now you'll notice that I launched my commies in a circular fashion. I'm doing it in a clockwise fashion. You can do it counterclockwise. It doesn't really matter. Just be strategic as far as where you put your commies, but you want to do it in a circular fashion. After you're done releasing all your commies, you then want to release your zooks in the opposite direction. So if I do it clockwise, you'll want to do your zooks counterclockwise. I'm not quite sure why strategically that makes sense, but people like Sparta will tell you that's what you need to do. So here you see me launching my commies in a circular fashion, and then I launch my zooks in a other circular fashion. Now, around this time, you'll notice that the enemy troops are now being drawn to the meat grinder. You want to protect your meat grinder at all costs. It is super imperative, because if the meat grinder goes down, well, now your CNZ are completely vulnerable, and you'll get your butt kicked. So you want to protect your meat grinder in a couple of ways. One, definitely should use heal and protect on them to protect the troops. And then if you want, you may consider using another decoy in front of your CNZ so they can draw the enemy troops toward it while your meat grinder is killing them. So you see me launch a decoy there, use protect, heal, and letting my fighters take out the enemy. And so now you want to protect your CNZ with fighters as well. So whenever you see them being attacked by enemy troops, release your fighters to protect them. Use betrayals on the heavy tanks when needed, and that should get you 5 stars. It's it's a very effective strategy for me. Highly recommended if you are a global age player plus. And yeah, best of luck, guys. If you have any questions, let me or Sparta know. We'll be more than happy to help out. All right, good luck.